Hello again. Today we're going to be talking about the leading ladies of Hammer Horror, not just Hammer Horror Studios horror films. This is to piggyback off of my last video that I just produced, which covered the Hammer Horror films. But there's something really special that made those films work very well, and that is the ladies that portrayed all of these characters, whether they were damsels in distress, but most importantly, a lot of times they were the seducting, vampiress that would scare the shit out of you, but at the same time, too, allure you into the theaters to see these films. If you fancy fables, fiction, tall tales, and high adventure, you're definitely in the right place. If you would click like, click subscribe, even click the notifications. I've got more of these Halloween-themed movies lists coming out, so click that and you'll get keyed into those as well.
You know you'll always be safe as long as you're with me.
Very early on, Hammer Studios realized that they had something special that kind of outshined what Universal was doing in the 30s and 40s with their monster movies. And that is to lean heavily into not just gore, but the sexuality and the glamour of these women that they were putting into these films. These leading ladies became iconic, more so even though than the monsters. And they would put them on the posters. They would be kind of the driving force to bring people into the theaters, not just men, but women as well, because they had these elegant gowns and they had these way about them that was just very, very enticing. There was nothing quite like the lure that they had. It was a lure and also a threat at the same time for these Gothic horror movies. Today we're going to be covering the 11, not just the hottest, but the most alluring, the most dynamic at what they were trying to do, leading ladies of Hammer Horror production films from the 50s to the 70s. Many of these women were in multiple Hammer Horror films. Many of them were Bond girls. Many of them were Playboy Playmate models. Many of them were just models in general, but all of them in general were gorgeous and made a massive impact on each of the films that they were in. Here are my top 11. Starting off with number 11, we have Yvonne Roman. She was in The Curse of the Werewolf. She's so great in that. She was also in Night Creatures, but more specifically, the Curse of the Werewolf. She's best known for that from 1961. And, she plays this tragic mother who's suffering. It sets the whole story into motion. I mean, she's exotic and haunting in it. And her presence is atypical for Hammer horrors. This was the only werewolf film they did, but it's just classic her portrayal in this and definitely has a lasting impact. Number 10 is Veronica Carlson, and she was notably in Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, and Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, and the horror of Frankenstein, which, she was actually one of the highlights of Horror of Frankenstein. Horror of Frankenstein is just the worst of the Frankenstein movies. It's the one that doesn't have Peter Cushing as Victor Frankenstein. It's got Ralph Bates, and Ralph Bates was great in a lot of films. He sucked in that one. But anyway, I'm kind of getting off the track of Veronica Carlson. She's definitely one of the quintessential Hammer horror heroines. She's got this wholesomeness to her, but yet she's also got a commanding screen presence, and she gave emotional depth to her character. She is one of the ones, not to say there's few of them, but she's one of the ones with great acting chops, maybe higher on the list as far as that aspect goes. She gives an emotional depth to her character, and she's got a horror Gothic aspect to her that comes off on the screen. Number 9 is Yvonne Monlaur from The Brides of Dracula. I believe that was the only movie she was in of the Hammer horror movies. And she was a French actress. She had this she was a very delicate beauty, and she had an elegance to her, and she embodied Hammer's European Gothic atmosphere. And she definitely remains one of the most beloved cult figures in the Hammer horror filmology. Number 8 is Jenny Hanley. And she, I believe, was only in Scars of Dracula. She was a Bond girl. She was in the one that didn't have Sean Connery, On Her Majesty's Secret Service from 1969. One of the better Bond movies, by the way. But she's stunning. She was also in Billy Wilder's The Private Life of Sherlock Holmes from 1970. Her contribution to Scars of Dracula is pretty impressive as far as like her presence. Number 7 is Susan Denberg, the beautiful Susan Denberg from Frankenstein Created Woman. That is the only Hammer horror film she was in. She was a Playboy Playmate, and she was also in an episode. I can't remember if she was in multiple episodes or one episode of Star Trek, but she was an important character in the Star Trek original series. And in Frankenstein Created Woman, she played Christina. She was the tragic character, but that was like, you've got the woman with the scar that is kind of the body that they used, and then they've got the man who's on the revenge kick, who's got the mind, and then like hers is this like evil villain that like once Victor Frankenstein has updated her face and made her beautiful, she's the one that goes on this like chilling revenge campaign after her resurrection. And she definitely like has an intensity to her. You know, she's a haunting heroine that, you know, if you see her on screen, you're going to love her. And this is probably the reason why the Frankenstein Created Woman is one of my favorite of the Hammer horror films. It's of a higher caliber. When you see, like, you'll understand when you see the movie. It's definitely like a real film in comparison to some of the pulp cult Hammer horror films. Number 6 is Hazel Court from The Curse of Frankenstein. She was also in The Man Who Could Cheat Death, which is like, that's a movie that did not make the list at all because it sucked, frankly. But she's more known for the Edgar Allan Poe movies that were done by Roger Corman and Vincent Price. And she's in several like Alfred Hitchcock Presents episodes. Hazel Court, you know, I believe to be one of more elder actresses. Not that she's an elderly actress. She's just got a lot more experience that you can see, and class, of course. And, you know, she has this striking red hair, and she's just got this aristocratic air to her. And she did become an icon in British horror in the 50s. So, you know, this is naturally one of those like, hey, let's go get, you know, some of the classic actresses and bring her in. That's why she really only showed up in one of the earlier of the Hammer horror films. Number 5 is Valerie Leon. She was in Blood from the Mummy's Tomb. I believe that was the only Hammer horror film she was in. She was a renowned model, and she was in 2 Bond films with 2 different Bonds. And she's also in The Revenge of the Pink Panther. So she is a stunning beauty, of course. Naturally, that's why they wanted her. She's statuesque and commanding in her performance. She's this reincarnated Egyptian queen in it. And I mean, she brought both glamour and menace to the role that she portrayed. And she did elevate one of Hammer's last memorable Gothic film icon stories of the Mummy, of course. So there you have it. Number 4 is the very iconic Caroline Munro. She starred in Captain Cronus, and she also starred in Dracula AD 1972. She was a Vogue model. She was a Bond girl. And she was also in the Golden Voyage of Sinbad. She's really great. That's one of those classic movies, too. Like, go back. I know we're getting off track here by talking about Ray Harryhausen films with the Sinbads and whatnot, but like, she was freaking awesome in it. So like, you know, I need mention it, of course. But she was also notably wanted for Superman and Superman 2 to play Ursa. She just couldn't because she had gotten cast in one of the Bond films. So she was unable to take the role. She was also thought of for Vampirilla when they were trying to do the Vampirilla film in the 70s. I don't know whatever happened to that, but you know, there you have it. She definitely like had this striking look and charisma, just look alone. And she became this enduring cult figure, bridging both Hammer horror with 1970s pop culture. Number 3 is Madeline Smith, who was in a whole ton of the Hammer horror movies. She was in, most notably, the Vampire Lovers. She's fantastic in that. And she kind of plays like the babe in the woods to Ingrid Pitt's character, where she's not like this diabolical bad guy. She's more like following along. She's kind of like I'll make a South Park reference, but she's like the Butters to Cartman in this. But she is so, she's number 3 on this list, more so because I consider her to be probably the hottest of all of the Hammer horror ladies. Not to say she's a bad actress. She's just more of the quiet type. And you feel that in everyone. She's appropriately cast in all of the films that she does. So, she plays that character. But she was also in Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell. Quiet character, but kind of the damsel in distress in that movie. She's also in Taste the Blood of Dracula. And she was a Bond girl. She was in Live and Let Die with Roger Moore. She's just an absolute stunning beauty. Number 2 are, going to be 2 of them. I can do that because they're twins, Madeline and Mary Collinson from Twins of Evil. That is the only film they did, but they were Playboy playmates. I have not seen the issue that they're in, but I'm sure they are stunning in it. But they are unbelievable actresses in Twins of Evil. Twins of Evil is one of my favorite Hammer horror films. And they play very different characters. Even though they're twins in that movie, they play like 2 sides of one coin. One being out for kind of revenge against her uncle and becoming a vampire, and the other one being kind of like the innocent one that wants to, help. Yet they're also still the 2 of them are bound together as, they're twins. So like they don't hate each other, but man, they, both unbelievable actresses and unbelievable beauties in the Hammer horror pop culture filmography. And number 1, the best Hammer horror lady is Ingrid Pitt. Yes, she is probably one of the most beautiful. She may not be the most beautiful, but she is by far the most dynamic actress of all of them, both acting ability and striking beauty. Seriously, one of the most fetching of all of the actresses that show up in any of the Hammer horror films, and dynamic in most cases. I mean, she steals the show almost every single time she's on the screen. She was in The Vampire Lovers. She was in The House That Dripped Blood. She was the Countess in Countess Dracula. She also starred in Dr. Zhivago, so she has the acting chops. And, I mean, she's perhaps, I don't even really think it's debatable. I mean, she's the ultimate Hammer leading lady from, all critical points of view. She's fierce. She's seductive. She comes off as very intelligent, which is sexy in its own right. And she gave Hammer's female vampires depth and power. Like off screen, she had this real life story that, she escaped from World War II concentration camp, which is a whole nother story in itself that's compelling as a character. I'm not going to go into all of that, but I actually find that interesting. I probably want to read up on it, and I recommend that you do too, because she has an interesting history before she became an actress. But she is my number 1 Hammer horror lady. Well, thank you for watching all the way to the end. In closing, the Hammer horror ladies, they were the studio's heart, they were the glamour, and they were the humanity to these films. They weren't just victims or seductresses. They actually provided strength, allure, tragedy, and their presence helped these monsters and gave them their power. Hammer used their beauty to draw audiences in, but it was their performances that made the spectacle as great as it was. Even today, fans revisit these films, and it's not just for the Gothic chills, but it's to celebrate the unforgettable women who gave Hammer its enduring soul. Thanks again. I'm Foxy Cellars. If you would click the like, click subscribe, you'll get keyed into more of my videos. Thanks again.